What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror here, and the controversy continues with ranking the Big Four slasher sequels. This was no easy task, and I came up with my list, and I had to juggle with movies that I thought were shot just a little bit better and just came out more precise, and movies that have scenes that really resonate with me, and I finally came to a list, and let's get started. So coming at number 4 for me is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's not a whole lot I need to say about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It is a fantastic film. It may be 4 in this list, but it's number 1 in a lot of horror fans' hearts, and rightfully so. Tobe Hooper knew he couldn't do what he did again in the first one. I think it was just a different time. The money was different. He had a big studio behind him, breathing down his neck. He didn't have all the freedoms he wanted. When he decided to kind of slapstick himself a little bit, it couldn't have worked out better. The relationship between Stretch and LJ and the radio station is great. I always have a smile come on my face when I see those two on screen. The best thing about this movie is Bill Moseley. Once he comes into the film, he absolutely commands your attention, and he steals the movie. It's funny when you think about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you think Leatherface being the star, but Bill Moseley absolutely owns this movie, and I love him for that. So while Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is a fine addition to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise and an excellent sequel, there are a few movies from the Big Four that I appreciate a little bit more. Coming in at number 3 for me is going to be Friday the 13th Part 2. You know, there's a lot of questions I have with Part 2, like how did Jason just seem to grow up so fast? How did Jason get to where Alice was? I kind of make myself believe that Jason's young version was an apparition that haunted Alice, and he was really grown up by that point. I don't know. That's how I try to make sense of it. But with Friday the 13th Part 2, you've got great directing by the great Steve Miner, and this movie is done with pinpoint precision. There's not really many flaws in this movie that I can really see. The characters are all pretty likable, which is a tough thing to do with slasher movies, considering as the more time we get through with these movies, the less time they take making you care about them to begin with. But with Friday the 13th Part 2, I really don't have any real complaints about it. I'm a big fan of the potato sack Jason. I know some don't appreciate it or like it as much, and that's fine. Obviously, the hockey mask is the iconic look for the character of Jason. There's a lot of controversy as well between Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash. Warrington Gillette was saying he was Jason for all these years until Steve Dash finally talked about it in the Crystal Lake Memories book. Then we kind of find out what really happened. But with all that being said, Friday the 13th Part 2 is a brutal slasher movie with a great look, with a great sound, a slasher movie done to perfection. But with these Big Four, there's still a few more that I enjoy a little bit more. This is where it gets tough, because with two of these movies, one of them I think is done very well and looks very good and sounds really good. The other one has flaws you can see on screen, but when it hits, it hits. So number 2 for me is Halloween 2. John Carpenter writes the sequel to the big Halloween kind of out of necessity. He has to make this movie. Doesn't really love his script anymore. It's clearly known now that he does not like the fact that he made them brother and sister. But with Halloween 2, Rick Rosenthal came in and said, I'm going to direct this movie to a T. And I think he did. Dick Warlock's performance as Michael Myers was absolutely fantastic. It wasn't the same as Nick Castle. Dick really put his spin on the character. We know that Deborah Hill is not a big fan of his performance of Michael, but I gotta be honest, I think Dick is great. He's really grown on me over the years in Halloween 2. The music in this movie is fantastic. I love the gothic overtone that Alan Howarth gave the score. I really do. As a matter of fact, I think I like it a little bit more than the original. With Halloween 2, there's not anything to really complain about. The movie looks great, the movie sounds great, and it's a good, scary horror movie. There is a little bit of gore in this, and that was done as a sign of the times as well. Some people like the pure Halloween with no gore and no bloodshed at all in the movie, and I love that too, but you know what? I kind of like seeing Michael Myers spill a little bit of blood here and there. So with Halloween 2, I really like the way it came out and the way it looks. So for my number 1, guys, this is where it gets interesting. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Now, this movie has flaws in it. There's parts where you could tell the directing wasn't just that great. Some things could have been reshot and done better. But with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, part of it is nostalgia for me. This was the first movie I watched from the day I officially, in my book, became a horror fanatic. This was the first movie I remember renting from Blockbuster, and once I watched this, I became obsessed with horror movies. This was my first Nightmare on Elm Street movie as well. With Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, it does have flaws, but when this movie hits, my goodness, it hits. When we see Freddy burst out of Jesse, this is a scene I can vividly remember. I'm sitting in my bedroom at my parents' house watching this late at night. I've got school the next day, and my jaw is dropping in fear out of what I'm watching. I'm not screaming. I'm not throwing the cover over my head. I'm just in shock because It absolutely was a breathtaking sequence. Freddy looks absolutely horrifying in this movie. There's never been a scarier look for Freddy or a scarier performance, in my opinion, for the character of Freddy Krueger. In Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy is the truest version of the devil himself. He is horrifying, doesn't meet you halfway at all, and the controversy of this film with the homosexual nature and the things like that really give it an intriguing style that, I gotta be honest, I just really love it. It is the black sheep of the franchise. With Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, there are flaws, yes, but when Freddy hits it on screen, he makes you drop your jaw 100%. His performance is that visceral. So there it is, guys. Controversial maybe, but it's honest. So can't wait to see what you guys think. Number one for this list is going to be interesting because I can see Fridays being number one. I can see Texas Chainsaws number one. I can see Nightmares being number one. And I can definitely see Halloween's being people number one. And these films got to have a little bit of nostalgia with us. We got to remember sometimes where and when we saw these movies for the first time. And that could have some effect on your list. As you can see, it kind of has a little bit of effect on mine. As for now, though, this is Christian Hanna Horror. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button to see more videos just like this. Also, ding the bell so you don't miss when I upload. And check out the description for my Teespring and other things just like that. Thank you guys for watching. This is Christian Hanna Horror.